which is not particularly good. So I wasn't planning on doing this, but I feel like if I'm going to read this book, which I wasn't originally planning on doing so, I have to document it. But the marketing for this book finally suckered me in, and I bought it. Argylle by the elusive Ella Conway. Now, if you haven't seen this book, that would be because it just came out. Now, you may be confused by this little, not really a sticker on the front that says the book that inspired the major motion picture. And you may be confused and be like, Jess, how does it make sense that it says it inspired a major motion picture if it just came out? And that is where all the questions start. So this book, Argylle by Ella Conway, it just came out like a week and a half ago. And the movie that is supposedly inspired by this book is coming out the beginning of February. So there are a lot of questions surrounding this book, especially the elusive Ella Conway, because before this movie and this book were being marketed, nobody had ever heard of this author. And this author has only just recently created an Instagram and has zero indication of who this person actually is. So I mean, it's pretty clear that Ella Conway is a pseudonym and doesn't actually exist. So then if Ella Conway is just a pseudonym, who really wrote this book? So there's a big theory that it was written by Taylor Swift because, you know, she loves Argyle sweaters, and because in the movie, the main character carries around a cat in one of those cat backpacks, which Taylor has been known to do with Meredith and Olivia before. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think Taylor Swift wrote this book. When I was explaining the phenomenon surrounding this book to my roommate the other day, it dawned on me what I think the case is for this book. So the premise for the movie is that Ella Conway wrote this book. Then in the movie gets all caught up because it's discovered that the events of the book that she was writing turn out to be real. So Ella Conway is a character in said movie that's supposedly based on this book, which doesn't make any sense. So what I think is happening is that this whole thing is just a marketing ploy, and that this is one of those things where like that this book is just like based on the movie, not the other way around, and that this is just like, oh, this is the book that was in the movie, you know? But I don't think I'm doing a good job of explaining it. But I simply think that this book was a marketing ploy for the movie. Yeah, I think that this book was written for the movie. Anyways, I thought it would be fun to document my experience reading this book. So let's go. Okay, I am finally starting Argylle. Tell me why there was a quote from Vladimir Putin before the book starts. Okay, I'm like 40 pages into Argylle, and initially I thought he was like in his 30s, but he's not. He's in his 20s. I am about 50 pages in, and I'm just gonna restate what I was gonna say earlier. I'm very confused as to how old Argylle is, because from my brief glimpses of the trailer, I thought that Argylle was being played by Henry Cavill, and so like that's how old I imagined the character to be. But then this says he's like 23, 24, and now I'm very confused. And it says that he has like long, really long hair. So now I'm just confused. Am I enjoying it? I don't know. The structure is interesting because like it's dual POV, because one is Argylle and one is some other dude, and at this point we don't yet know how he connects to Argylle. Within that, within like the other guy's point of view, the timeline bounces around a little bit confusing just to like keep it straight in your head and be like, okay, when is this taking place? Okay, I'm about 80 pages in. And today I got it out to read a little bit before class started. And the guy sitting next to me asked me what I was reading, then told him, and he asked me how I was liking it, and I was like, So we're 80 pages in, and we're still getting like a lot of rising action. And I do have to say that there is a relationship going on between two characters, I won't say which ones, that I feel like has the potential to gross me out because there was something said that could potentially open up the conversation to lead to something else, which is not particularly good. Ignore what you can see of my Christmas Snoopy pajamas and the stain on my sweatshirt. Maybe it's just like my own algorithm working in my favor against like towards what I like to see like on my social media feeds, but we're at this point and it's talking about a super fancy like dinner that they're going to, that Argylle is going to, not a dinner but like a showcase expo of like really expensive and precious jewels. And I'm just like, you read about these in all like spy books and everything, but like, do things like this actually happen in real life? Because if so, why isn't it like all over social media? And maybe it is, and I'm just not on that side of social media. And 2 days ago, I posted a TikTok over on my book talk of my theory on how I think that this book was written, about how I think that this book was a marketing ploy based on the movie rather than the other way around. And somebody commented on there and was like, yes, but this doesn't really make any sense because the book is like a prequel to the movie. It is at this moment, page 107, where I'm like, I don't think that is true. I think now is where we are getting some of the content that is in the trailer of the movie. Reading update while I get ready for bed. I'm like 150 pages in to Argylle, and it's taking me so long to read it, but I can't determine why that is. Like, I was feeling kind of slumpy before I was reading Argylle, because it took me like a week to finish the last book I read. And so I can't tell if I'm just like not reading it fast because I'm not enjoying it, or because I'm like actually in a book slump. But I feel like we're only just beginning to get into kind of like the meat of the book. So maybe it'll start picking up and I'll be enjoying it more and start reading it faster. I'm still pretty confused on like what's going on. Just like how the two points of view we're following connect. We've like barely seen the 2 points of view interact, and I really don't understand why they're interacting. I mean, obviously I can like assume from like what I know about like the genre of this book. Like, I don't actually know why the two are relevant to each other. And like pretty early on in the book, the supposed bad guy, like he was giving a speech and he said something, and then like the scene like cut off and went straight into the other point of view. I still am not at the point where I understand why what he said was so like scandalous or bad. I'm like pretty close to a third of the way into the book. Like, I feel like at this point we should have a little bit more context as to why said bad guy is like actually bad. Like, at this point, like, I can tell this book was not written by a woman, or at least not entirely written by women, because even if it was written by like several ghostwriters, like, it was not entirely written by women, because I just was reading a part where like a character was described as like having done something, and I was like, if it was like solely up to a female as to like what kinds of plot points would be included in the book, like, that definitely wouldn't have made it into the final draft. I'm a little less than a third of the way into the book. Would I recommend reading this book? At this point, no. At this point, I would say go watch the movie and leave it at that. So I was reading today at my singing practice, and a dialogue scene came up between Argylle and another character, and I was just like, what? Like, where did this come from? What was the reason? None of our previous situations where these two characters were interacting did it give any hints as to what Argylle knew about this character. I'm still only like 160 pages in, guys, and I don't know why. You know, it could be, this is the first like physical book I read in, what was the last physical book I read? Was it Iron Flame? Was that the last physical book that I read? That was 2 months ago. I think it was. That has to have been the last physical book that I read. I've just been reading on my Kindle for like the past 2 months. So maybe I'm just like, my brain is confused. Okay, so I've been reading this book for like a week, so I'm determined to finish it today. I'm gonna make a TikTok of me trying to finish it. I'm on page like 210, and I'm not sure what's going on. I have a feeling I know what the plot twist is. Okay, I was wrong about the plot twist. All right, it has been a few days, but I finally finished Argylle. It took me like a week to read it. And then I read like almost half of it in one day because I was like, I've been reading this book for too long. I am determined to finish it. So I read like 160 pages in one day, which, did I have time for? Not really, but I did it anyways. The ending was a lot more intense than I thought it was going to be. Like a lot. Reading the book honestly just solidified that like this is just a marketing ploy. And something I noticed, but I didn't notice it until the end, but this book has very little swearing, which lines up with someone who wrote a movie script that they want to keep PG-13 and not get rated R. I mean, I didn't mind that there was very little swearing. I just thought that it was very interesting, considering the types of characters you encounter in this book, that there is very little swearing. The twist really wasn't that twisty because they tell you pretty much exactly what the twist is going to be from the very beginning of the book. So when the time came for the twist to actually happen, it wasn't that surprising, and it happens in like most spy movies. Like this, I don't think, like this book by itself, I don't think would make a very good movie. I think if anything, it's gonna be the Ella Conway character that makes this movie worth watching, because this book is just a copy and paste of every other spy movie that you've ever seen. Do you need to read it before watching the movie? No. Would I recommend reading this movie anyways? Honestly, not really. Because if you've read any other book that's about spies, you've read this book. Boy who's not spy gets recruited to be a spy. He does spy things, and he defeats the bad guy. And there you go. Now you know the entire plot of Argylle. Anyway, that is all that I have for you guys today. Maybe I will vlog in a different video when I do go and see this movie, because I saw the trailer with a friend yesterday and she really wants to go see this movie, and I was like, well, I read the book, so I'll go see it with you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and maybe subscribe to my channel if you're feeling up to it. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.